There was a recent randomized, double-blinded clinical trial, you know, the creme de la creme of clinical trials, of the efficacy of zinc in COVID patients. Basically, they took 490 people, they split them equally between zinc group and placebo group and looked at the results. That's the title. Mortality at 30 days was 6.5% in the zinc group and 9.2% in the placebo group. ICU admission rates were respectively 5.2 and 11.3%. Our results showed that in COVID-19 patients, oral zinc can decrease 30-day death, ICU admission rate, and can shorten symptom duration. And the actual numbers: 15 deaths with zinc and 22 with placebo, 12 ICU admissions in the zinc group and 27 with the placebo. This shows the progression of no symptoms, symptoms and oxygen requiring 1, 2 and 3 on the first day, halfway and at the end. On day 1, zinc and placebo no different, as you'd expect because it's the first day. After 2 weeks, those with no symptoms are now quite a lot more numerous in the zinc group. Mild symptoms, no difference, but those requiring oxygen, a lot fewer with zinc. That's that lot there. Then, at the end, those with no symptoms, more again in the zinc group. Mild symptoms, not much difference, but many fewer needing oxygen in the zinc group. So with that lot there, in patients over 65s, people with other illnesses and those needing oxygen, the zinc showed statistically significant results. If those flat lines are all on the left, it means statistically significant. Zinc helps with COVID. Randomized, double-blinded control trial. The creme de la creme. Oh, where is the randomized, double-blinded control trials? Right there is where it is. So, the first thing to say is, why were zinc supplements never recommended at the start of all this? It was already known that zinc was an antiviral agent. Obviously this study is relatively new, it came out a few weeks ago, but the fact of zinc's antiviral properties was well known 2 years ago and more. Why was this never recommended, along with other things like vitamin D supplements? Why was it never recommended? And then, as we head towards Trump's dirty secret, no, I do not mean that one, I will be employing the following necessary acronyms for the rest. CQ being the older version and CQ with an H being its more modern and, I believe, safer counterpart. The only structural difference between them is in fact that little bit on the edge. CQ, or CQ with an H, is a zinc ionophore. I'll bet you're really glad to hear that. That is, according to Dr. Fauci's lot. You can read the summary if you want. This is the definition of an ionophore: a compound that facilitates transmission of an ion across a lipid barrier, as in a cell membrane, by combining with the ion or by increasing the permeability of the barrier to it. So CQ with an H, as a zinc ionophore, facilitates the transmission of zinc ion across the cell membrane, according to the sainted Dr. Fauci's organization. And since we know that zinc helps COVID, we have established that, right? And since we know that CQ with an H, helps the passage of zinc across the cell membrane, we have established that as well, I believe. We could even just deduce at this point that CQ with an H would be indirectly beneficial. In fact, if you go back to that dictionary definition, there are a couple of illustrative examples. In a 2010 study, zinc coupled with an ionophore, a chemical that transports an ion across a cell membrane, was found to inhibit the replication of SARS. That's SARS version 1, and the ionophore was CQ. This from 2005. CQ is a potent inhibitor of SARS-CoV infection and spread. So the more primitive CQ helped with the earlier SARS. Then on to the other example they give. Some COVID-19 studies have also shown promising results from pairing zinc with the anti-malaria drug CQ with an H, another ionophore. And in fact there is a vast amount of documented evidence. It's more a question of what to leave out than what to include. This is the American Journal of Medicine in August 2020. CQ with an H is also a zinc ionophore that conveys zinc intracellularly to block the SARS-CoV-2 RNA-dependent RNA. Antimalarials may reduce the progression of disease, prevent hospitalization, and are associated with reduced mortality. Step up, we know who.
A drug called, and some people would add to it. Now, this is a common malaria drug, and it's shown very encouraging, very encouraging early results.
At which point the entire establishment turns its guns on him, number one because it's Trump, and number two because it's cheap. But we now know the nature of the medicine. CQ, as in CQ, or the newer, safer version, CQ with an H, has no antiviral properties at all as far as we're aware. No antiviral properties. It can do nothing directly for the virus as far as we're aware, but it opens the door for the doctor when the doctor finds the door closed. That is what it does. How many closed doors did zinc find itself up against that this thing could have opened? By how much would this and this have been reduced? Down by 25%, maybe down a bit more? There is vast evidence of its benefit. Even the Bleeding Dictionary talks about it. In order for the vast evidence to be false, all the doctors would have had to get together in a body and decide to fabricate evidence about a drug which they know doesn't work. And all that hand in glove with a whole bunch of publications, including the American Journal of Medicine, where they lay it out in words pretty much of one syllable. That would be the conspiracy to end all conspiracies. And we also have a pretty good reason why it seems that the study evidence is generally inconclusive. Because if you're already a legend at absorbing zinc into your body, then you can take as much CQ with an H as you want. It probably won't make a blind bit of difference because your door to zinc is already wide open. So, in this study, zinc reduced deaths by 30% and the ICU admissions were less than half in the zinc group and statistically significant. What if something even close to that had resulted from an early rollout of zinc combined with our ionophoric friend here to ensure that everything got it nicely absorbed into their cells, so that nobody who might be so was left zinc deficient? Could you have been looking at maybe 40,000, 45,000 lives saved in the UK, 25%? That there is pretty much what that kind of a reduction would be in terms of lives saved. A good 40,000. Why is nobody talking about this? Why has it fallen off the radar? Yes, I'm aware of the reality of the right. They've got their teeth into vaccine injuries and nothing will deflect them from that course. No problem. Have at it. You can hold two thoughts in your head at the same time. The fact of vaccine injuries, whatever, doesn't mean that the reality of the potential worldwide reduction in mortality of this thing of maybe up to 1 million people, that reality doesn't have to fall off the radar. Potentially 1 million, even 2 million people, 2 million lives could have been saved with a rollout of this thing, along with zinc. That shouldn't fall off the radar. And who knows the next time something like this happens. With the antiviral properties of zinc and this thing's ionophoric ability to help the zinc into the cell, well, who knows how many lives it could save potentially next time. So keep this thing front and central. Don't let it fall off the radar. And you can help to that end by liking and sharing the video.